Kakuzi has come out of the results and they're showing great profits for the first half. What's the outlook for it going forward?
Going forward for the tea sector is going to be a bit challenging, but I think if you look at the numbers for the tea production, they have been almost constant with a bit of improvement. So I think in terms of production, we are going to continue the same way. The biggest challenge is going to be the tea prices, whether the prices in the world market in the Mombasa tea auction are going to sustain. And I think they should be able to sustain. And if they do sustain, then we are likely to see the second half being better than the first half. I think the other thing to look at also in the tea industry is going to be the labor issues that are there. I think there's been a bit of some unrest coming from the laborers, some of the workers. And I think if that thing is contained, and probably they can be able to introduce the automatic picking of the tea leaves, that can be able to lower their costs and therefore make even the second half much more better.
Yeah. Well, gains in the agricultural sector or the agricultural stocks are always very seasonal. How is the agricultural sector faring in Kenya at the moment?
I think in terms of prices, it's going to be much more better, given that the last 6 months prices have been stable. Some of the prices for the basic commodities were able to come slightly lower, but I think that's, as you say, seasonal. I'm expecting the second half is going to be much more stable. Again, one thing that is going to make the prices even much more go up has to do with inflation. There's so much famine coming through, and the government is trying to set aside some funds, about 40 billion, to be able to supplement some of the food crops which the local mwananchi uses. So I think in terms of prices, the prices are going to be a bit stable, even probably go up because of the lack of supply. And in the agricultural sector, mostly for the non-food, direct food materials, the prices should be better for the second half.
We know the agriculture sector is the backbone of Kenya's economy to a certain extent. Are we seeing a scenario where the agriculture sector can pick Kenya's economy out of its doldrums?
I don't think so. I mean, we keep talking about backbone of the economy, but in the GDP contribution is less than 26%. I think the notion that I used to say is the backbone of the economy had to do with the number of people being employed in that particular sector. But I think for a sector that largely does not add value, or the products are not added value before they're exported, it's going to take some time before it can be able to push the GDP up. In fact, the way we are seeing, and from the fact that the drought has been persistent, rainfall has been unfavorable, and going forward, the prices have also not been very predictable. I can foresee the agricultural sector not contributing very much. I think just about 26–25% of the GDP. Most of the growth in GDP is going to come from the services sector, financial sector, the construction sector, and a bit of the horticultural, which is part of agriculture. But I think going forward, that's going to be sustained more by the non-agricultural sector.
Well, Kenya's Nation Media Group also came out with results where we're looking at a scenario where the profits are down. What should the company be doing to pick up its profit levels?
One for sure, the media industry has been very competitive. And these fellas have been relying on some of the technologies that have been able to survive for the last couple of years. But I think with the coming of the new stations, for example, there's so much competition in the print media as well as the electronic media. I think if I pick an example, for example, in the TV sector, there's been, this quarter, there's been like 2 or 3 new TV stations that have come up with some new concept of advertising, which is going to hit into the NTV, that's one. When it goes to the newspaper, the print media, also, though the circulation was a little bit flat, the revenues from the advertising were very much hit. And I think going forward for the second half of the year, nothing is going to change much. And I think the competition is going to eat into the market share, that's one. Secondly, the circulation, depending on the consumer spending power, I'm expecting that one to be flat towards the end, until the end of the year. But when it comes to revenues coming from, obviously, advertising, which is the biggest component of the newspaper, is going to be hit also because of the competition. And I think going back on the other electronic side, competition is going to be also very tight, given that new stations are coming up both on the print and the electronic.
Should the company be cutting down on costs at all?
No, they should. I mean, no doubt. I mean, they should. One of the things that Nation Media is known for here is that they pay very good salaries. But on the other side of the company, that is a cost component which they must contain. For one, I think the war between the standard media and the nation media has been that someone leaves here, go there side at higher pay, or some of the competition when it comes to the newspaper circulation. This one says we do 30%, the other one says we do 90%. I think they need to look at that, and I think the biggest challenge the nation has to do is the cost. They need to reduce cost. Probably they've been doing a bit of distribution. Then they need to look at very critical to be able to reduce the cost there. They need also to reduce costs in terms of the vendors. The other day they were trying to introduce a bit of insurance for the vendors, which is a good thing to sustain in the long run. But I think they need to reduce costs on that one. The cost which they have not controlled has to do with the material which are imported, and obviously the government has slapped on duty on that particular one. So they must look at all spectrum of the cost base to be able to realign and be able to do the business better, make much more efficient and lean business.